Hey guys, welcome to Lifencyber. We promised you guys that we'd do a little bit of a Kali and a Parrot walkthrough, and so today we're going to go through that process. We want to introduce you to Kali itself and through Parrot OS. And many of you keep asking which OS is the better OS to use as you're entering into cybersecurity. Which one do you think is the better one, Shannon?
Whichever one you like.
That's That's actually the most honest answer I could probably hear from anybody. And I agree with that. And it depends on what you're trying to get into. And so we always like to say if you're going to go into offensive security and you're going to go get the OSCP or one of the other certifications from OffSec, they put 100% of their certifications behind Kali Linux. So I would definitely invite you to say, hey, use Kali, become an expert at Kali, just because you're going to be tested on it. But in the day-to-day, Parrot's my favorite. But really, it's going to be whatever your preference is. So today we're going to walk through the installation of Kali to begin with, and then we'll move into Parrot OS. And then after that, we will go through some of the main tools. But for this video itself, we want to show you how to install Kali and how to install Parrot OS.
To be honest, I'd never heard of Parrot until you told me about it.
Really?
Yep.
It is such a new OS. It's definitely something that a lot of people aren't used to just yet. They're both Debian based for anyone who wants to know information about it. So the first place that I like to go for is you want to go to Kali.org. So we'll start with Kali OS. It is the old tried and true. Way back when Shannon and I were doing this, we used to use Backtrack and other operating systems. Well, that's what Kali has become into, actually. Backtrack and I think what the other one, the forensics one's called Helix. I believe it's still out there. But the two main ones that everyone uses today is Kali and Parrot. So if you want to go to Kali.org, you can actually read a lot about the actual operating system itself. But right on the home page, you can go straight to download. And there's a lot of different ways that you can pull down this operating system. You can pull it down in installer images, the traditional ISOs. If you have VirtualBox on your computer or VMware, you can download those directly onto your PC. And that way you don't have to set anything up. These are already pre-installed, ready to go images. And if you want to do anything special, some people like to do things a little more special. You can either use any of these other different options. They have options for WSL for anyone who haven't used WSL before. It runs a VirtualBox in your Windows 10 or 11 machine, and it uses a subkernel, so you can use direct access to Kali from your machine. Or you can get into installing it on like a Raspberry Pi. Most of the time, the Raspberry Pi installations would be your ARM installations. As you see here, you can install it right onto a Raspberry Pi. So I think that's really cool. Today
We're done that.
I have. I've installed it on a Pi. The problem with a Pi is there's not a lot of hardware behind it. So if you want to do something that's going to be intensive, like cracking a password, it's going to take some time. So while Raspberry 5 is not... Oh, it is actually now on the list. Last week when I looked at this, 5 was not on the list. It is now officially on the list. Before, we always would just install the Raspberry 4 installation on a 5, and it worked just fine as well. But looks like they finally came out with a 5 version as well, which is cool. All right, for today, though, we're going to be doing the installer images. We're going to download the 64-bit version of 2024, but we're going to download .1, and we're going to install it on our VBox. So we've already got those downloaded for you here. Right here, I've got a version of Kali. So in Oracle VBox, in order to create a new machine, you click New Machine. We're going to call this the Lifencyber Kali installation. Pick the folder that you want to put this in. Find the image that you need. And so for me, my image is going to be on my desktop. I believe, if I can get there. Pick Kali. And what you can do is you can set up unintended and a whole bunch of other different settings. We're going to leave all of those blank because we want to go through a full manual installation, show you what it's really like to install the operating system. I'm going to give it a little bit more power. I can go up to 20 cores on this CPU here. And I'm going to give it a little bit more memory just so we can go a little bit faster. We're going to go 4 gigs of memory, 4 cores, and I think the default 25 gig. You think that'd be enough, Shannon?
It should be for the demo.
All right,
I
yeah.
would like to say that you're compensating with your hardware there, though.
I'm compensating with my hardware. What's wrong with my hardware?
I have 20 cores on this computer.
This is a laptop, by the way. But hey, it's one of those things that you can deal with. And by the way, it is an Intel, so don't make fun of it being an AMD because this one is not.
So it'll work right and not overheat.
That's true. That's true. So we're going to click finish here. It's going to start the installation of the virtual machine. And as soon as it starts, it's actually going to power on the machine automatically. So let's give that a second. All right, it looks like we're starting to boot up now. Oh my goodness, that's very small. So let me actually bring this into scaled mode. This should make it a little easier for us all to see.
Yes, thank you.
So we're going to use the graphical install today. So we're going to just hit enter on the graphical install.
Does anyone ever use a non-graphical install?
I tried once and I actually got lost in it, so I don't recommend it. So I'm going to close out of these messages here so we can see the full screen. I speak English, so that's what I'm going to stick with.
Yeah, John's fat head is blocking the screen, so...
It is. I think we're still fine. I'm going to click continue. Shannon's going to complain, so we're going to turn off the cameras for a second. All right. So it's going to detect the media. It's going to look at the media real quick, make sure it's A-OK. At this point, what the installer is doing is looking at your machine as well, doing an LSI detect, which means it's checking your hardware and noticing which firmware and which drivers it needs to install. So we'll give that a second. It should automatically pull down an IP. Which if you wanted to, you could have changed the network config on that to actually set up a static one through unintended. Or you could just leave it alone like what we did here. And so I'm going to put that host name back in here. I'm going to call it Lifencyber installation. That's a really long host name. I think a lot of Windows guys would hate me for that.
Yes, we would.
I'm going to use lifencyber.com for my domain name. And we're going to use Lifencyber for our username. So we need to make sure that this username is full lowercase, so it's just double checking that.
I was just going to say that. That's one of my pet peeves.
It is definitely case sensitive, so be very careful what you type there. I always just recommend that just keep it all in lowercase, and it is going to verify that for you. That's one of the nice things about Kali is it does let you know that. And so we're going to make a super secret password here called password1, by the way. Super secret. If you were going to be using this in a production environment, definitely do not do this. Make it a secure password, but for our demonstration here, that will work just fine. So I'm in Mountain Time Zone. We're going to configure the clock here. Bring in our lovely pictures back, even though nobody wants to see it.
Everyone wants to see the bluey pictures in the background.
The bluey pictures?
Yeah, my little kids made those.
You got a new dog too, didn't you?
Yeah, we named him Cosmo.
I like it. So it depends on what you want to do here for the partition disks. You can do the guided, you can do LVM, you can do encrypted, you can do a whole bunch of different things. But if you are a new person into Linux, doing this by hand is probably a little daunting at best. So I normally recommend starting with your guided option, and there's different models. You can do this the entire disk, which just partitions out the disk as a traditional partition, or you can use an LVM, which is a logical volume. Logical volumes are if you ever find yourself where you're going to want to extend or shrink this disk, I would pick the second option. But if you never think you're going to do that, the first option is just fine. So if you're going to use things like OpenVAS for vulnerability scanning, totally use the second one because you never know how much space you're going to need, and you may need more later. But if you're not going to, you can just use the first one. It's just a lot harder to expand that disk if you need more space. So I've got a little 25 gig disk here. So VBox actually does the math based off of 1,000 gigabits per sector. This one's actually doing it 2024. So 25 gigs actually equals out to 26.8. So we're going to partition this. All the files in one partition. You can have separate partitions if you're looking for speed, and again, if you have multiple hard disks attached to this box. But since we're doing guided, we only have one hard disk in this box. There's really no reason for me to have separate partitions for everything. So it's going to tell us what it's going to do. It's going to put 1 gig as swap space, which for those who are not familiar with swap space, it's the page file in Windows. It's when you run out of memory, it's going to use your swap space for additional space. And we're using ext4, which is by default, and then we're just going to hit continue to finish the processing. I always like how it does this. It asks you like 10 times, are you sure? Because as soon as you do this, it's going to wipe whatever disk you have assigned to this box and repartition it. So if this is not a VBox and a standalone server, you can say bye to whatever is on that hard disk. And here it goes. Which interface am I going to choose? Nah, this is all up to personal preference, to be honest. Now, the default interface now is the XFS FSCE. I can speak today. It used to be KDE or GNOME. GNOME was there for the tried and true for years. They do still offer it, but I find that a lot of the shortcuts that they bring into Kali now is built into their default desktop. So if you pick a different desktop other than their default, it's going to be harder for you to find the tools that you need. So I normally leave this as default. I normally leave the full desktop environment. Trust me, leave this on. You want a GUI. You want to use their default window manager. And then I do allow the collection of tools to be here. Now, this collection of tools doesn't mean that it's installed. It just means it's going to be in the menu. A lot of times what Kali will do is it'll be there. The first time you open it is when it actually installs the application. The top 10 tools will be installed, and we'll install the recommended tools. So we'll click continue for this. So now this is going to take a little bit of time. It's going to install everything that we just told it to install, and we'll return as soon as it's done. Alright, so the installation is completed. All our software is installed. What it's now trying to ask is if this is the only operating system on the hard drive, we need to install the grub bootloader. The grub bootloader is the master boot record for a Linux operating system. And since this is a virtual machine, and it is the only machine that's going to be on this virtual machine, we're just going to keep this one as yes. It's going to detect the actual hard disk that you want to install the grub file to. Just click on the hard disk and click continue. Trust me, you do not want to do this manually. So it's going to install this. It's going to get us all set up. And once this is fully set up, it's going to have us reboot. So we'll just give that a second. We'll be right back. All right, installation is complete. So now we're going to do the reboot. As the system's rebooting, it's pretty quick. Really don't have to do too much. You'll see here's grub. You'll see that it's trying to boot into Kali. There's nothing you need to do. You can just watch the pretty pictures go by.
What kind of animal do you think Kali Linux is going for there?
A dragon? I don't know.
I don't know. It just reminds me of Mushu from Mulan.
It does a little bit, doesn't it?
Yes.
I hope you remembered the username and password you installed because they will not tell you it again. Ours was Lifencyber, and our password was password1 capital P. So we have now a full working version of Kali that we can now play around with. Up here, you'll see network utilization. If we want to open up a terminal, we can just click the terminal button here. We can check our IP addresses. We can, make sure that we're on the internet. Come on, Google. There it goes. You can thank Pi-hole for that little slow pi. Pi-hole's probably like, who is this machine? And stuck it in the guest network. And then the other things is you can always go through all these different tools. They do a really good job at categorizing them. So if we're going to go through some of our tools, we can go look through each one of these. Now that will be on a future video. We will actually go through the top tools, and that's going to be after our installation of Parrot OS. So it doesn't matter if you use the tool on Kali or on Parrot. And the reason why I say after is because if we do it here, the tool is the tool. Most of it's Python based. It doesn't matter which OS you run it on. I think that's why, Shannon, you were saying do it on the version that you enjoy the most, right?
Yes. When you get comfortable with something, people don't like change. So I like Kali. I will probably never use Parrot OS. It was fun to install on my home lab, which we have a video about.
Go watch it. And yeah.
So.
All right. Well, that's going to be the video for today. We're going to follow this one up with our Parrot OS installation. For those who want to try out both, I do recommend trying out both versions of the operating system. And if you do like videos like this, make sure